Your thumb is P. Okay, you've got to label each one of these so we can know which fingers to use on which strings. P-I-M-A. Spells the word Pima. Comes from the Spanish words for thumb, index, middle, and ring finger. So P-I-M and A, and that's what we're going to use. So when you see the P-I-M and A letters next to the strings in the tablature that I've given you in your book, you know what that means now. So one of the most difficult things to learn in finger style playing is independence between your thumb and your fingers. And that's not something that's going to happen overnight, so you're just going to have to practice making your thumb do what you tell it to do and having your fingers be independent. And we're going to practice on making those independent. We have some exercises to do, and I'll show you those a little bit later. One thing you might want to do when you're just starting out is try to keep yourself somewhat anchored. If you're going to be playing on just, let's say, the bass line, the bass notes, and then your fingers up here on these treble notes, then, or on the higher notes, I guess I should say, you want to maybe take your ring finger and your pinky finger and just kind of anchor them down right here next to the rosette. That way you'll be able to kind of give yourself a foundation to play on. It's a little bit harder if you're just doing it out in midair, but you will need to do that. One of the things that I recommend you do is just get used to gripping the strings like this. So you put your thumb on the top string here on your 6th string, and then your fingers on each string, and just get used to kind of holding on to those, because most of the time when you pick, you're going to be plucking them up. Okay, you're not going to be plucking them this way with your finger. You're going to be plucking them like this. Okay, and the simple exercise we're going to do, starting right now, is example 1, a basic finger pattern. And what we're going to do is we're going to give P, our 6th string. We're going to give P this string as well. So your thumb's going to move back between your E string and your D string here. And then I and M, and we're not going to try to use A right now. We're not going to use this finger. And actually your pinky finger is used very rarely. So what we're going to do is give P here, and then P is going to move down to here, and then I and M, okay, on these strings, playing this E minor chord. Okay, so in this exercise what we're doing is we're teaching our thumb to be able to jump strings. In this lesson what we're going to learn is a descending pattern. You may have noticed that most of the patterns we've done already have been ascending. In other words, when you go up the chord, where you always have your I, M, and A in that order, now we're going to have A, M, I, descending. Instead of going this way, we're going to go this way, which, believe it or not, is a little more difficult. And I think probably because your ring finger is weaker and doesn't get quite used as much as your index and your middle. So we've got to train it to do what we want it to do. So we're going to practice this exercise, exercise 1, which is your first descending pattern. We're just going to hold down this E minor chord, and we're going to have P is just playing on the bottom, like this. And this is always a good way to practice, is just to have it move like this before you start adding in your treble notes. Okay? Again. And what you might want to practice is just going like this. Just switching between the E chord, your E minor, and your G. And not try to add the bass in until you feel comfortable. And do it really slowly like this. Just remember, it doesn't matter how slow you have to start out. You can always pick up the speed later when you figure it out and you get more comfortable playing the pattern.